Anthropic's new AI model, Claude Mythos, its preview is so powerful, they're not going to release it to the general public. Anthropic is saying that their AI can now surpass all but the most skilled humans at finding and exploiting software vulnerabilities, and the fallout for economies, public safety, and national security could be severe. For more, let's bring in co-founder and CEO of Otherside AI, Matt Schumer. Matt, I thank you for being here. That sounds scary. Is it?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. To some extent, it is. What I would say is it's not worth panicking over, but it's worth taking seriously. If you think about what has happened here, in short and simply, AI has increased its capabilities. And turns out when you do that and you get to a certain level, you develop cyber offensive and defensive capabilities, right? And that means that AI can now be very good at hacking into systems and also defending them from hackers. Before, you needed extremely skilled humans to hack. Now we have AIs that can do it at the level of the best humans, essentially, but it can also do it way faster and in parallel. It can have many copies of itself going at many systems at once, which is really the scary thing here. It's not like this is anything new in terms of being able to hack. It's just the skill, the speed, the parallelization of it is a bit worrisome. But then this can also be used for good to defend against it. So the hope is that, this will be a cat and mouse game, but the good outpaces the bad, which is why I'm quite impressed with what Anthropic did. They essentially have a money printer on their hands with this new model. And instead of releasing it right before they're going to IPO and making tons and tons of money, instead they're saying, this thing's too dangerous and we are going to actually hold this back to have it used the right way to defend against these things that may come.
And on top of that, not only holding it back, but also giving their rivals, their competitors, a preview into it to let them defend against it, basically. They said that basically this model marks a critical juncture where AI can't be contained anymore, to the point where they're giving these rivals a preview. Wired puts it this way: the idea in part is simply to give the developers of the world's foundational tech platforms time to turn Mythos preview on their own systems so they can mitigate vulnerabilities and exploit chains that the model develops in simulated attacks. So put this into layman's terms for us. Obviously, Anthropic didn't train Mythos to do this, but it did it on its own. They recognize the power of that, and they're telling other American companies, hey, here's a preview, check yourselves.
Absolutely. Right. If you think about it, this is what's called, in non-layman's terms, an emergent capability. But what that means is that you can often train these AI models to do one thing or another, or just to get generally smarter. And then it turns out they end up learning and doing things that you didn't intend. In this case, that was these hacking capabilities, which means that 6 to 12 months from now, when all the other AI labs, both American and otherwise, get to this same level of capability, they will likely have these hacking capabilities too. So Anthropic wants to give access to the US government, to Apple, to Google, to other AI labs, which is really impressive and pretty amazing, so that they can be protected before all these other hacking AIs come online and are given to the world, because that will happen very soon. So they're actually doing a surprisingly great thing here. You don't see this every day in a for-profit company.
And I would assume that's probably a concern when you're talking about nation states that have their own AI technology and maybe not as high a moral bar for ethics.
Exactly. That's the concern on the nose.
So which countries might that pose a concern for, from the U.S. perspective? When it comes to national security and these warnings, what does that look like in real life?
So you could think about who are the actors, right? And that could be just nation states. That could be the Chinese AI companies that tend to train and release these models to everyone in an uncensored and fully available way for free, essentially, right? That is the big worry. The question is then, what can you do with them? If you think about it, we live in a software-driven world. Most things are powered by software, power grids, electricity, water systems, right? This isn't just hacking into a little SaaS app and getting some customer data. This is much bigger than that. And that's why Anthropic is giving it to, let's say, the US government first and not small technology companies, because there are things that are more important than just little software apps, right? This actually affects the real world.
When you look at this full screen of the companies that are getting early access to Mythos, getting this preview of the security defense, what does that tell you about this new technology? If it's not handled right, how could that impact people's lives? Because to regular people, they're just seeing names of companies on a screen. But what does that translate to in day-to-day, the things that you do to live?
I mean, look at the companies on the screen. You have Apple, which holds immense amount of user data. You have JP Morgan Chase, which has keys to banking systems, right? Let's say a banking system is hacked. Obviously, we don't need to get into the specifics, but that could be disastrous. Disastrous. The idea is that we want to avoid that. And let's say, one of the Chinese companies got here first. Well, for example, they could have used this themselves to get into JP Morgan Chase before anybody even knew this existed. Thankfully, Anthropic is giving it to JP Morgan. And will this protect it? Will this cat and mouse game, be in favor of the good guys? I don't know. I really hope so. But the worst case scenario here, frankly, is that all these software systems that we depend on, right? Not just, like I said, little apps and, Slack and Salesforce, but things that truly power our day-to-day lives are compromised. I mean, what would the world look like if a water system was compromised? This hasn't happened at this scale before. We have not seen this. We're not fully prepared for this, and it could be extremely dangerous.
Well, thank you very much for breaking it all down for us. I'm not sure I feel better, but I think I understand it more. So, Matt, thank you so much. Matt Schumer, appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.